So I spent 6 months traveling around Brazil, and in this video I'm going to give you my best 1 month, 4-week, 28-day itinerary based on my travel experience in the country. Now, if you are from Brazil or if you know Brazil very well, do comment below. Let me know what your perfect 28-day itinerary would be for Brazil. If you were planning a 28-day trip to Brazil for a tourist who has never been to the country, what would your itinerary look like? Do comment below. It will be interesting to see your responses. So on my itinerary, what I would recommend is that you fly into Sao Paulo and you firstly spend 3 days in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is the biggest international hub in the country, so you're probably going to be flying into Sao Paulo. So your first day, you're just going to chill, relax and get over your jet lag. On your first night, you will go out and have a meal. Sao Paulo has lots of good restaurant options, including international food options. You may also want to go to some bars and have some drinks as well. There are a real plethora of bars in Sao Paulo, and if you like to go out night clubbing, Sao Paulo is probably the best place in Brazil to go out night clubbing if that is your thing. The Pinheiros / Villa Madalena area of the city is probably one of the best places where you can do that. Now on the second day, I would go to the Oscar Freire district of the city. It's a really upmarket, pretty part of Sao Paulo, and there are lots of nice options for brunch and cafes. If you like your football, you can then take an Uber to the football museum, or failing that, you can take the metro to Avenida Paulista. This is the most famous avenue in the city. There is a famous art gallery on Avenida Paulista called MASP, or they pronounce it in Brazil MASP. So if you like art, you can see that. I'd then head over to the Ibirapuera Park. It's this massive park in the city, and there are little ponds and lakes you can walk around. That would be a good way to finish off the second day. Now on the third day, what I would do, I'd head over to the Mercado Municipal. This is the market where you get the famous mortadella sandwich. I would recommend taking an Uber to get to the Mercado Municipal because it is located in a pretty rough part of the city. I would then take an Uber to go to the Farol Santander. It's this big skyscraper, and you can go to the top of the building and get a really nice view across the city. And then I would finish the day by going to the Japan town. It's called Liberdade. If you go there at the weekend, you have lots of food stalls and market stalls selling different food. You've got lots of food options there, not just Japanese food, but you've got Chinese, Korean, Thai, Indian food. Even though Sao Paulo is one of the biggest cities on earth, it is quite manageable to do in 3 days because the public transport around the city is very good, in particular the metro system. Sao Paulo does divide opinion as a travel destination. I would liken it to a mixture of Berlin and Bangkok, but without the history that Berlin and Bangkok has. It's a very, very ugly city, very grey. But since it is highly likely that you will be flying into Sao Paulo, and because it is the biggest city in the country, I would give it a few days. There are definitely some interesting things to go and see in the city. By the way, if you do want to book any tours when you are in Sao Paulo, feel free to go below to the comment section and the description. I have put a link to where you can book a 7-hour tour of Sao Paulo, so do check that out if you would like to. If you need more information on Sao Paulo, don't hesitate to go to my channel homepage. Go to my Sao Paulo playlist. I've made lots of videos on the best neighborhoods to stay, the safe places in the city to stay, how to use the metro, things that you should not do in Sao Paulo, and so on and so on. So do check that out if you need more details. Now for the next leg of your trip, I would then take a 2.5-hour flight up to Salvador, and Salvador is a lot more stereotypically Brazilian than Sao Paulo in my view. Beautiful colonial architecture, cobbled streets. The food there is fantastic as well. This is the African culture epicenter of Brazil, so you're going to see lots of capoeira fighters. You're going to hear the African drums. I would recommend 3 days here. So you're going to arrive on your first day by plane, check into your accommodation, have a rest, and then I would head out to the Rio Vermelho neighborhood. There is a restaurant there called Casa de Teresa, and at this restaurant you will be able to get the traditional dish from Salvador. It's called moqueca. Make sure you order the Chef Ana Bueno moqueca. That was the best dish I had in my time in Brazil. You can then walk over to the main square in Rio Vermelho. It's called Largo da Dinha, and you've got lots of bars there, so go and have a caipirinha or 2 or 3 there. On your second day, you're going to go and explore Pelourinho, the historic old town. This is where all of the lovely architecture is. Stunning churches, lots of little cafes and restaurants you can go to, museums where you can learn about the African history. Go and try the local street food. It's called acarajé. There are lots of vendors selling acarajé there. It is probably my my favorite savory snack in Brazil. You can go to the famous elevator. It's called the Elevador Lacerda. Little fact, it was the first ever urban elevator in the world back in the 19th century. At the top, you've got the historic Old Town, but when you go down the elevator, you can go and visit the Mercado Modelo. There are lots of vendors there. And by the way, it is free to use that elevator. On your third day, you can go and explore the Baja neighborhood. So this is where two of the beaches are in Salvador. They are pretty overcrowded, but I think the vibe at these beaches is really nice. You've got a lot of bars and street food in Baja, and then for sunset you can go over to the famous lighthouse, the Farol da Baja, see the sunset. Everyone congregates there. It is really incredible. It's one of the best sunsets in Brazil in my view. There are some good bars and restaurants in Baja for the evening time. Baja is actually one of the best neighborhoods to stay in when you come to Salvador, so if you can't find anything in the historic Old Town, consider Baja. That is a good alternative. And by the way, if you would like to book a walking tour when you do visit the historic Old Town, you can book this walking tour that I have put below in the description and the comment section if you would like. Now, the third leg of your Brazil itinerary will be to take a 2-hour ferry from Salvador over to an island called Morro de Sao Paulo. You're going to spend 4 days here, and this is really your vacation time because this island has some really lovely beaches, and you can do tours to other nearby islands for even nicer beaches. If you need information on how you book your ferry tickets to Morro de Sao Paulo, again, I've literally made a video all about this. Go to my Morro de Sao Paulo playlist. The top video is the video that you want to see. Also, do watch that video because I explained that you have to pay a tourist tax to enter the island. The video explains everything you need to know regarding that tourist tax. But on your first day on the island, you're just going to relax, chill, get some food, go to the beach, have some drinks. The island does have some nice bars, restaurants, live Brazilian music, so you'll have a good night out there. Now on day 2, you're going to book a boat tour to an island called Ilha de Boipeba, and on this island you're just going to see unbelievable beaches, natural pools. The color of the water is spectacular. You can book a tour to this island when you land onto Morro de Sao Paulo, or if you do want to book a tour to Boipeba in advance, you can use the link I've put below in the description and comment section. It will be more expensive to use that link. It is cheaper if you book in person when you land into Morro de Sao Paulo, but if you do want to book in advance, the link is here. And then day 3 and day 4 are going to be beach days back on Morro de Sao Paulo. They were very creative with how they named the beaches there in Morro de Sao Paulo. They're literally just called Beach 1, Beach 2, Beach 3, Beach 4. Get a suntan, get some rest in, get some drinks and food in. You're going to need the rest because the next day when you leave Morro de Sao Paulo is going to be a very long travel day. So now for the 4th leg of your itinerary, you're going to take an early morning ferry back to Salvador, and then I'm going to give you 2 options for this leg of your itinerary. It depends what type of person you are. So if you know that you like hiking and you like the outdoors and nature, option A is that you take a bus from the Salvador bus terminal over to a town called Lençóis. It's going to be about a 7-hour journey, give or take, and you're going to book 5 nights here. Your first night is a write-off because that first day was a travel day, but the 4 days that you spend here, most of that will be used to do hiking in the Chapada Diamantina. And Chapada Diamantina is probably the most famous hiking destination in all of Brazil, and there are lots of tours you can do. You can do tours of the caves there, you can do a 3-day hiking trail, you can go on a tour that takes you up to the top of the mountain there. By the way, the links to all of these tours are below in the description and the comment section. And the town of Lençóis itself is very pretty. It is a colonial town, so you can spend a day there checking out the town itself. Now, me personally, I'm not really a hiking person, so I did not actually go to Chapada Diamantina. So option B for leg 4 of your itinerary, if you don't like hiking and you prefer beaches and you want more beach vibes on top of Salvador and Morro de Sao Paulo, I recommend that you take a 10 or 11 hour bus, give or take, from Salvador bus terminal up to a city called Maceió. Again, you will book 5 nights here. On your first night, you will literally just check into your accommodation and go to sleep because you've literally just had an 11-hour bus journey. And the next 4 days are going to be you exploring the beaches in the region. So on your second day, after you wake up from your sleep, you're just going to stay in Maceió and explore the beaches there. The Ponte Verde beach is the main beach in the city, and it's got a really good vibe. Music, beach bars, street food. On your third day, I would say take a 30-minute Uber ride over to a beach called Praia de Ipioca. The color of the water here is absolutely insane. It is the bluest, most turquoise water I've ever seen. On day 4, you're going to take another approximate 30-minute Uber journey south of Maceió to a beach called Praia do Frances. And then on your final day, you're going to book a tour to go up to the town of Maragogi. Now, Maragogi is referred to as the Caribbean of Brazil, and you can see in this clip why the water is turquoise. You have these beautiful natural pools there, and what you can do is you can book this tour that I put in the description of this video, which is a day trip that takes you from Maceió to Maragogi and back to Maceió in the evening. Maceió does have some nice bars and restaurants that you can check out in the evening as well. Now, as for leg 5 of your itinerary, if you did go to Maceió, you now need to head to Maceió Airport. If you went to Chapada Diamantina, you need to take that 7-hour bus ride back to Salvador and head to Salvador Airport. So for leg 5, you're going to take a 2.5-hour flight back down south to Brazil's most infamous city, Rio de Janeiro, and you're going to book 10 nights here. Now, some may argue that 10 nights in Rio is too much. I can already envisage a comment in the comment section by someone arguing that you don't need 10 nights in Rio, you can see everything in 3 days. There will probably even be someone who comments, don't go to Rio, it's dangerous, it's the worst city in Brazil, avoid, avoid, avoid. Brazilians are so territorial when it comes to their state or their region of the country, and they dislike other states and other regions for reasons like politics, that kind of thing. But Rio is one of the best travel destinations in the world, let alone Brazil. You have Christ the Redeemer, of course. The views from there are unbelievable. It's so good you may even want to go up Christ the Redeemer twice. Likewise with Sugarloaf Mountain, unbelievable views. There are hiking trails where you can go up and watch the sunrise. The sunsets on Ipanema Beach never get old, they are spectacular. You're going to want to spend a day on Copacabana, you're going to want to spend a day in Ipanema and Leblon. You may even want to go down to Barra da Tijuca and spend a day on the beach there. Don't forget Centro. That is a big mistake that lots of tourists who go to Rio make. Do certainly visit Centro. There are some cool museums there. You've got cheaper cafes and restaurants there because not many tourists go to Centro. You can also go to the famous Pedra do Sal party, which is apparently the birthplace of samba, and this currently happens on Monday and Friday nights. You've got lots of bars and restaurants scattered throughout the city. If you like your football, you can look into getting tickets to go and watch a Brazilian league game at the Maracanã Stadium. One thing that I would have loved to have done but I did not do, it was kind of a bit out of my budget, is to go on a helicopter tour where you go on a helicopter and it takes you all over the city. I can imagine at sunset it would be absolutely unbelievable. I've put a link below to where you can book that helicopter tour. Now, yeah, you can get the highlights of Rio done in 3 or 4 days. I will agree with that if you plan accordingly. However, I think 10 days is a good amount of time in the city. 10 days means you have time to rest. It means you have time to see everything. It gives you time to maybe go to a football game, maybe go to the hippie market in Ipanema on a Sunday. It means you've got time for Pedro do Sal. It means you've got time to go and watch the sunrises and the sunsets multiple times. Now, if you really do get bored of Rio after 5 or 6 days, what you can do is you can take a day trip to a city called Petrópolis. So Petrópolis back in the day was the summer residence of the Brazilian emperors. You could also do a day trip or stay overnight or stay for 2 nights in a town called Búzios, which is about 2.5 hours to the east of Rio. If you are going to book this as a day trip, I would recommend that you book this as a tour, just since if you book this day trip as a tour, then this includes your transport to Búzios, this includes your transport back to Rio, and everything is planned throughout the day, so it just makes your life easier instead of booking public transport by yourself. By the way, again, the link to this tour is below. Búzios is kind of similar vibes to Morro de Sao Paulo, so if you liked Morro de Sao Paulo, you'll probably like Búzios, though the water here in the sea is much colder and I don't think the beaches are as nice as Morro de Sao Paulo. Now, if you know you don't like big cities and you have a feeling you're probably not going to like Rio, what you could do, instead of booking 10 nights in Rio, you could book 7 nights in Rio and book 3 nights in a town called Paraty. Paraty is a beautiful colonial town located about 4.5 hours on a bus ride to to the west of Rio. So now we've done 25 days in Brazil. We have 3 days left on our itinerary. Leg 6 is the final leg, and leg 6 will be you flying from Rio down to Foz do Iguazu for 3 nights, and this is where you're going to see the famous Iguazu Falls. So on your first day, once you arrive, I would go to a restaurant and get some food. I would then head down to the Marco das Três Fronteiras, which is this area where you pay to go in, and you'll see live music there, you'll see bars there, you've got food options there, and you will be able to see the 3 borders of Brazil, Paraguay and Argentina over the 2 rivers. On day 2, I would go to the famous Buddha statue, which is just north of the city of Foz do Iguazu. By the way, you can use Uber in Foz do Iguazu. So I would then take an Uber down to the famous bird park. It's called Parque das Aves, and you see lots of tropical birds there. And then on your 3rd and final day in the city, that's when I would go to the Iguazu Falls. It's the perfect way to finish your trip in Brazil, spend the day there. It is one of the most incredible natural sights I have personally seen in the world, and one reason why this is the perfect way to end your trip in Brazil is because you are literally next to the Argentinian border. So then you can go over to the Argentinian side, and then you can continue your travels into Argentina, and then you can plan a month or 2 itinerary in Argentina. Now, if you are coming from Argentina going into Brazil, then obviously you can start your trip in Foz do Iguazu, spend 3 nights there, and then what I'd recommend is that you fly to Sao Paulo, and then you just repeat the itinerary that I gave you: Sao Paulo to Salvador, to Morro de Sao Paulo, then to either Chapada Diamantina or Maceió, and then fly to Rio and finish your trip in Rio. But if you are not continuing your travels into Argentina and you are leaving Brazil on the 28th day, the good news is you can easily fly from Foz do Iguazu to Sao Paulo. There are lots of cheap direct flights, and then you fly back to Sao Paulo, and then you can fly back home to your home country from Sao Paulo. Now, do let me know what you think of my itinerary. There are a lot of travel days involved, but I did want to create an itinerary that showed the highlights of Brazil, and I feel like this itinerary gives you a good feel for the country. If you are coming to Brazil soon, do let me know what your itinerary is, because it will be nice to see how different your itinerary is to my one that I've suggested here. If this video has been helpful and useful to you, do make sure that you click the like button and that you subscribe to my channel.